obviously. I mean, and that's fine. Like I said, I really do enjoy playing in these types of environments. That's what you work.
What if I told you that one of the fiercest competitors in women's tennis, someone known for staring down opponents with a look that could cut glass, just revealed a secret so personal, so unexpectedly tender, that even her closest friends were left speechless? What if the toughest woman on the WTA Tour suddenly showed a side of herself that no camera, no post-match interview, and no press conference had ever captured? Tonight, we're diving straight into the moment that shook the tennis world. A confession from Danielle Collins that nobody, absolutely nobody, saw coming. You see, Collins is not the type of player who hides behind carefully crafted PR lines. If anything, she's built her entire reputation on brutal honesty. The explosive forehand, the relentless fire, the raw intensity. Yes, we all know that, Danielle. But off the court, she's always guarded her private life with the same ferocity she used to close out a tight tiebreak. And that's why this revelation hit so hard. For months, fans had been watching her rebuild her life after a very public split from her ex-boyfriend, Brian Kipp. She joked about letting fans apply to be her future husband, and the internet loved it. Classic Collins humor, sharp and self-aware. Most of us thought it was just that, a joke, a moment of levity from a player known for her emotional storms. But while everyone else was laughing, something else was happening behind the scenes. Something quiet, something real, something she wasn't ready to share with the world until now. Because the truth is, Danielle Collins wasn't joking, or at least, she wasn't joking for long. Her closest friends sensed it. Little changes, small details, that sudden glow athletes sometimes get when life off the court takes a turn for the better. But no one expected the confession she would soon drop. Not the fans, not the media, not even the former ATP stars who unknowingly set the stage for her big reveal. And here's the thing you need to understand about Collins. She's a paradox wrapped in grit. She talks tough, walks tough, competes tough. But beneath the armor is a woman who feels deeply, who loves intensely, and who is far more vulnerable than the public ever imagines. That vulnerability is exactly what we're about to explore. Because her revelation wasn't just a gossip headline. It wasn't some throwaway line on a podcast. It was a window, brief but unmistakably real, into the heart of a woman who has lived her entire life in the spotlight, yet still longed for something genuine away from it. So what exactly did Danielle Collins reveal? What truth was so powerful that it left her host stunned into silence? To understand that moment, we need to revisit the scene where it all unfolded, a seemingly harmless podcast that suddenly turned into a turning point in her life. To understand how everything unraveled, we have to go back to a room that was supposed to be harmless fun, a podcast studio filled with laughter, light banter, and 4 retired ATP players who had absolutely no idea they were about to pry open a part of Danielle Collins' life she had carefully kept sealed. It happened on the Nothing Major podcast, hosted by John Eisner, Jack Sock, Sam Querrey, and Steve Johnson. 4 big personalities, 4 bigger egos, and a chaotic energy that could make even a royal guard crack a smile. They invited Danielle on expecting jokes, stories, a bit of spice, nothing too deep, nothing too dangerous. But when you're dealing with Collins, danger has a way of showing up unscheduled. The host began teasing her about her old joke, her future husband application bit. They found it hilarious. So hilarious, in fact, that they decided to take matters into their own hands. Yes, they actually curated real husband applications, actual men, real submissions, filtered, sorted, and chosen by 4 former ATP pros who had somehow convinced themselves they were now running a top-tier matchmaking service. And then, with a grin that suggested they were far too proud of themselves, they presented their top pick. Andy, 33 years old, a tennis fan, eager, earnest, probably sweating behind the camera as he recorded his video submission. The room erupted in laughter, but Danielle didn't. At first she smiled politely, that polite but firm smile British audiences know well, the kind that says, "I'm being nice, but absolutely not." Then the smile slipped just a little. Something shifted in her expression. She looked down for a moment, almost weighing her words, and then she said it. "I don't want to date a fan. I don't want to date someone who knows tennis. At all." The room froze. The host blinked. The laughter stopped mid-breath. This wasn't a joke anymore. It was as if Danielle had opened a door she had been trying to keep shut. The kind of door that, once cracked open, reveals more than you ever meant to show. You could sense it instantly. Her tone changed, her posture softened, her voice carried an honesty that didn't belong to a comedy segment. And in that quiet, unscripted moment, she revealed the truth. She was already dating someone. Exclusively. Not a fan. Not a tennis insider. Not someone connected to the sport in any way. But a man who worked in finance. A man she refused to name. A man with a look. Those were her words. A look that definitely caught my attention. That made her speak like a woman who had finally let her guard down. What made the moment even more striking was that Danielle Collins, one of the most intense competitors in tennis, suddenly sounded gentle, almost shy. She admitted she hoped this relationship would work, that she wanted something real, something stable. And then she dropped the most human line of all. I'm kind of a firecracker. Not always easy to handle. And we all felt it. That flicker of vulnerability. The kind only someone who has been hurt before can express so simply. But here's the part that hit even harder. She revealed this at the exact moment her career was entering one of the darkest tunnels of her life. Because while she was opening her heart, her body was breaking down. Her smile in that podcast was hiding a truth far more painful than any, secret romance. While the world fixated on Danielle Collins' unexpected confession, very few understood the storm quietly gathering behind her eyes. You could sense it if you looked closely. Tiny moments during matches, subtle stiffness in her movement, the way she winced when turning her body just a little too far. But in tennis, as in life, the strongest aren't always the ones who shout the loudest. Sometimes they're the ones who endure in silence. And Collins had been enduring far longer than anyone realized. Her shock defeat at the U.S. Open, 6-2, 6-0 to Jacqueline Christian, seemed at first glance like an anomaly, an off day, a bad matchup, a player simply out of rhythm. But for seasoned fans, especially here in Britain where we respect the quiet grit of athletes who soldier on, something felt wrong, very wrong, because Collins didn't lose like Danielle Collins. She didn't fight like her. She didn't even move like her. And as the tennis world muttered theories and criticisms, the truth was far more brutal than any headline dared to suggest. She had been playing through a herniated disc, not a mild discomfort, not a niggle, but a genuine, stabbing, nervy agony that turns every serve into a gamble and every rotation into a shockwave of pain. Imagine, just for a moment, twisting your spine to generate a 100 miles per hour of force, while a knife is lodged between your vertebrae. That's what she was dealing with. But here's the part that makes Collins' story so profoundly human. She didn't quit. She didn't withdraw early. She kept trying to push through it, believing she could tough it out, the same way she has powered through every obstacle in her life. For an athlete whose whole identity is wrapped up in the idea of being strong, pulling out would have felt like betrayal of herself, of her fans, of the fighter she has always been. And then came the breaking point. Shortly after the Open, the pain became too much. The doctors too serious. The warnings too urgent. She was forced, reluctantly, painfully, to end her 2025 season early. A decision no athlete wants to make, especially not someone as stubbornly competitive as Collins. Now here's where the story becomes unexpectedly tender. Because just as her career slipped into uncertainty, someone new had stepped into her life. A man outside the sport, a man she refused to name. A man she spoke about with a softness completely at odds with the fire she shows on court. And in that contrast, you can almost see the shape of the emotional journey she's on. A warrior learning to pause. A fighter learning to be vulnerable. A woman learning it's okay to lean on someone else when the weight becomes too much. That's why her confession mattered. Not because it was gossip, but because it was the first glimpse of a Danielle Collins who wasn't just a competitor, but a human being standing at the crossroads of pain, love, doubt, and hope. Because right now, her future is a question mark. Her body is healing, her heart is opening, and her career, that's a story still being written. So here we are, standing at the intersection of everything Danielle Collins has been carrying. The love she didn't expect, the pain she couldn't hide, and the future she still hasn't fully decided. And when you look at the whole picture, when you step back and see the threads woven together, you begin to understand that this isn't just a tennis story. It's a human story. Messy, emotional, unpredictable, and heartbreakingly real. Because the truth is, Collins' life right now is a paradox. On one hand, her career has never been more fragile. A herniated disc is no small injury. It alters how you move, how you train, how you sleep, even how you breathe. Athletes talk a lot about the grind, but no one talks about those quiet nights when the pain creeps in and you lie awake wondering if your body will ever be yours again. On the other hand, Something unexpected has blossomed. A man, unnamed, unknown, untouched by the tennis universe, has stepped into her life at the exact moment she needed stability the most. He's not a fan, not an ATP insider, not someone chasing her fame. He's just a man who saw Danielle, the person, not Danielle, the gladiator. And maybe that's why she protected his identity so fiercely. Maybe he represents the one part of her life she wants to keep untouched by the noise. It's strangely poetic, isn't it? At the moment her body forces her to pause, her heart finds a reason to slow down. At the moment her career reaches its moment of greatest uncertainty, her personal life offers her the thing she's always struggled to embrace: softness. Now the question everyone's whispering, yet no one dares to ask aloud, is this: can Danielle Collins come back? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, fully. Because recovery isn't just about the spine, it's about the spirit. And Collins has always had that special fire, but even fire needs oxygen. Even warriors need moments to heal, to breathe, to rebuild. Perhaps this new relationship will give her that. Perhaps it will be the anchor she's never had. Or perhaps it will complicate everything even more. That's the beauty and the tragedy of being human. We don't get clear answers, only chapters. And this, right here, feels like the opening page of a new one for Danielle Collins. Will she return in 2026 with the same explosive intensity? Will she redefine herself, both as an athlete and as a woman? Will love make her stronger, or pull her toward a life far from the spotlight? Only time will tell. But one thing's certain, we are witnessing a turning point in her journey, a moment when love and pain collide, shaping her next steps in ways even she can't predict. So let me ask you, yes, you watching right now, do you think Danielle Collins will come back stronger, fueled by this new relationship and a renewed sense of purpose? Or is this the beginning of a quieter chapter, where she finally chooses peace over pressure? I genuinely want to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and tell me what you believe her future holds. And if this story gave you something to think about, if it made you feel something, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel grow and allows me to bring you even more deep, emotional stories from the world of sport that you won't hear anywhere else. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay curious, stay compassionate, and stay tuned.